The Blue Jays season is over. Kinda. We're through the regular season. We're going to talk about it. It's Locked On Blue Jays. It starts now.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Locked On Blue Jays, your Thursday episode with Matt Bonaparte. I'm Ben Shulman. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. You can catch us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Odyssey, YouTube, Twitter at Locked On Jays, and our email, lockedonbluejaysreal@gmail.com. We want to hear from you during the postseason. We've got some really cool emails, some really nice emails in general from you guys throughout the year and recently as well. So we want to keep that going. The email is cool. Please email us. Bones.
Yes.
Blue Jays end the season. We're not going to do a series recap because you don't care. But we will somewhat tie a little bow on the season. The Blue Jays finished the year and 70 after splitting a doubleheader where they probably should have won both, but who cares? Against Baltimore, big day Otto Lopez, cool. Congrats to Gabby on the home run, but not necessarily what we're really focusing on. I want to go to a specific John Schneider quote from after the game report, MLB.com's Keegan Matheson. And so on finishing 92 and 70, which is one win better than the 91-71 record they had last year when they missed the playoffs. Schneider said, quote, "We all know over the last calendar year the difference of one game, ... Hopefully that's one small step forward in the regular season and one huge run in the postseason." So after talking for way too long without bringing you in, Bones, first, I guess, just reaction to the comment.
Say it again.
So the comment is, we all know over the last calendar year the difference of one game. Hopefully that's one small step forward in the regular season, meaning finishing one game ahead, and one huge run in the postseason.
I mean, he's obviously talking about last year, but I mean, they don't have to worry about that this year.
Detective Bones. I'll get to
Yeah, it seems like a nothing quote.
It's true. It's true. But from a non-nothing man, John Schneider, who has just wrapped up, like, not a half season exactly, but like 2/5 of a season of his first major league managerial job. Schneider ends his tenure with, or ends not tenure, ends his season with the Blue Jays with a record of 46 and 28. He finishes 18 games over 500 as the Blue Jays finished 22 over 500. So we've kind of danced around it. We've maybe given some half answers, but concretely, how successful originally it was, is this successful? But I think that's pretty clear it is. How successful do you think this went for Schneider compared to your expectations when, he first came in? Because I remember that was a crazy day.
I was skeptical when they fired Montoyo, only because it doesn't often work out for World Series winners that you,
or even just good teams.
Yeah, like it just doesn't usually work out. And at that point, we'd seen two guys been fired in the MLB. It was Girardi and Madden, and Phil Nevin went like this, and Rob Thompson went like that. So we were hoping that that good juju would fall in the way of John Schneider, and it did. The dude was fantastic, and I think he exceeded everybody's expectations. 46 and 28, like you said, compared to Charlie Montoyo's 46 and 42. So there's kind of a direct comparison there. Schneider did a lot better than Charlie did. So I think everybody's got to be happy with how he did.
Didn't even realize, I should have realized that they won the same number of games.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think he far exceeded my expectations. It really had nothing to do with Schneider, kind of like you with your like just new manager moves don't work. It was just that a lot of what we were hearing was, okay, it's not going to be that different. that was supposed to be like a good thing because they were a good team. Like, it's not going to be that different. They just wanted a new voice, expect the team to be run the same. I wouldn't say it's like a whole new team, but at the same time, there were some more aggressive bullpen moves, pushing Romano to have more, further than a 3-out save, like more 2-inning saves, but sometimes 4 or 5-out saves. It definitely felt like a bit of a different team after Schneider took over than before it. So I I am impressed with what he did. I did not think that they would turn it around this much. I mean, you still have Montoya's record up?
Yeah, 46 and 42.
46 and 42. So that's almost half the season. It's a little bit more, but if you try, and I'm trying to do some real quick math over here, Montoya was on pace for the team to win 85 games, and they won 92. That's a lot. So I guess question number 2 becomes, your Ross Atkins / Mark Shapiro, and someone's like, you need to sign Schneider today for next year, or you're not going to get him. Do you feel prepared to offer him next year? Do you
100%.
want to offer him
Yeah.
more than next year? What do you want
I
to
would
do?
extend him next year, and then after that, see how he does. But I think he's definitely worth it right now. I mean, this is a guy that was the big thing around him was he had been with the younger guys throughout the minor leagues. He had won with them. He played with them for so long, or coached them for so long. They knew who he was. They all liked him. And I feel like, and I said this on like a couple pods ago, I think managers nowadays, it's all about how much the players like you. We've seen it many times throughout baseball that kind of despite how well a manager can do, or a coach in the NBA or something like that, if the players don't like you, you're gone because they're the ones that win the games. So Montoya, we heard that he wasn't hugely liked in the clubhouse, and that's why he was gone. And back to your point about what changed when he took over, I think 2 things changed, maybe 3. Bullpen, they started running a lot more on the base paths. And I just think the vibe of the club, everybody seemed a lot happier. Obviously, when you lose a bunch of games in a row, nobody's happy. But the general vibe around the club when they started winning again under Schneider, it just seemed like a good time. So I think Schneider definitely deserves an extension. And I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I like your idea of the 1 year, like give him now a full season in control. I'm definitely extending him if I was given the opportunity. I wouldn't be totally averse to something a little longer term.
I wouldn't either.
Because so like what I'm thinking is like these guys, we think they like him. I mean, no one knows for sure who's not in that building, but all reports and all indications are that they like him. And there's 3 or 4 guys on this team that are young, that part of the advantage, like you said, with Schneider, is that he managed or coached them in the minors and they like him. And if you're trying to lock them down, it could be helpful to lock Schneider down. I mean, he'd be in those, if he's your manager, he's going to be in those meetings as you're pitching to a free agent, and if you want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette and Alek Manoah, I mean, who didn't play with him as much in the minors, granted, but still, if you want those guys to have another reason to stay in Toronto, then Schneider could be that reason. So I feel like he could provide a lot in terms of helping out with free agency.
Yeah, I think that's true as well. So you're right on there.
And then let's zoom out a little bit on the team. Real interesting for all you bettors. It doesn't feel like we played a lockout year, but we did kind of play in a lockout year this year. And there must have been a time when maybe you were headed over to BetOnline a lot because baseball was locked out and you were like, wow, well, I got to feel some baseball juice. So let me just throw some bets down. And maybe a bet you looked at was Blue Jays win total this year. The Blue Jays entered the final game of the season, second leg of this doubleheader, with 91 wins. And their win total before the year for betting was 91.5. They came up clutch. Good teams win, great teams cover. And they won that 92nd game thanks to Otto Lopez and Bradley Zimmer and the boys. Was this a successful regular season for the Blue Jays? Like, how do you feel about the year?
Absolutely. When you make the playoffs, it's a successful regular season. I mean, I think that's cut and dry. Um, I mean, kind of funny that they finish at the same, or I guess one win more than last year, but still, I mean, if you make the playoffs, it's a successful regular season. You don't have to win 110 games like the Dodgers to have that be true.
I guess let me rephrase a little. It's an hour to opening pitch against Texas, day one of the season. I tell you, the Blue Jays are going to finish in the wild card. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to finish in the wild card 92-70 and like a touchdown's worth back.
So you're saying, considering the
Just everything.
considering the expectations going into the year.
I would like you can consider them, but also your own personal expectations. Like I've said many times that my expectations were not the expectations of the public. That the Blue Jays were just going to go win the World Series, but your expectations preseason, which very well could be influenced by the general expectation.
I think I thought they would have been better,
Okay.
because of the offseason moves they made. I thought Barrios was going to be better. I think everybody expected Kikuchi to be better, even though I actually didn't.
I think
But
you might have even thought he was going to be better than, like, didn't even
yeah,
close to make it through the year.
he was terrible.
Didn't even close to make it through.
I thought he'd make it through the year, so I guess
Yeah.
I did think he'd be better. I thought, yeah, I guess I just thought the offense would have been a little bit better. They dealt with injuries. Vladdy took a step back, but still had a fantastic season. I thought they would have been closer to 100 wins, and I mean, obviously, the other thing about the AL East this year is nobody expected it to shake out this way. Nobody expected the Yankees to be what they were early in the season. Everyone thought they were going to finish third or fourth, and people thought the Rays were going to be great. People thought the Jays were going to be great, and that the Red Sox were going to finish third. So it was really different to what people expected going into the year, and I'm going to say that I expected a little bit more, but it was still a successful season.
Yeah, I think what you're trying, it's like a good, not great, you know? Like, would I be fair in assigning a B grade from you on the season?
I'll give him a B+.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't bad. That's kind of how I feel. I mean, I think it was a successful year. I think everyone who was dead set still on like this has been a failure because they're not the favorite to win the World Series. Again, like these are the Toronto Blue Jays, and we just have to say bluntly, like they're not the New York Yankees or the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's just not how it works. Like they don't. It's not like okay, they're going to be the contender all the time. They're going to like be favorites to go to the World Series. This is the fourth time they've made it this century to the playoffs and the ninth ever. And that's including 2020. Both of those numbers. So, yeah, I'm very pleased overall with the season. Did I think they were going to be a little better? Yeah. Is it a bummer to a certain extent? Again, you're going to hate me. Strength of schedule, Ben. How many times they got Baltimore late in the year as opposed to early? They didn't capitalize early, and that was on them. That was on them.
Classic Ben. This is a classic Ben.
Could they have won 95 if the lockout doesn't move Baltimore series from the start of the season?
You're the king of the ifs, ands, and buts. You're the king of the kingdom.
But then again, they got swept by the Angels. So what are we going to say? Yeah, I thought it was a good year. So I guess my follow-up. So you're at a B+. Let me give you one more, and then we're well over time, and we'll go to our friends who are helping us pay bills. You got it at a B+. What could happen in the playoffs to push that into the A range for you?
I mean, winning.
But like, okay, but if they win the Seattle series, is it an A- season?
Oh.
Or do they need to make it to the ALCS?
They have to go to the ALCS.
Okay.
They'd have to go to the ALCS. And they'd have to, at that point, they'd have to play the Astros. They wouldn't have to beat the Astros, though.
Well,
they would. They
would have already beat the Astros.
I forgot which side they were on.
Yeah.
I forgot which side they were on.
For me, that's why I don't need. I sit in a similar range to you, but if they beat Seattle and lose to Houston, I'm going to be overall happy with them. If it was the Yankees on the other side, honestly, I would feel a little bit worse just because the Yankees aren't playing as well, and I think it's a more even opponent. But Houston is so clearly the best team in this league.
Yeah, they're so good. They're so good.
It's like, I don't know. All right. Well, that was fun, the season and the recap of it. You know what's really fun too, though? Maybe watching some NFL football games, maybe throwing a little bit of extra juice on those NFL football games? You can do that with betonline.net, your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events. I know my guy Bones has only been betting Jamal Williams props for the Lions for a while now. If you want to be like him and win all that Jamal Williams money and don't be a puppy dog and stay off the porch or stay on the porch or whatever it is, then head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts.
All right. Let's look at the roster and do something similar that we did for the team. Not necessarily give them a grade, but let's go not every player, but most players, some players, and say what our expectations were and if they met them, surprised, disappointed. We're kind of in the reflection period of the season. You look back, see what happened, see how you feel, and whatnot. First player I'm going to serve up to you is the man himself, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. How do you feel about this man from when you came into the season? Is this the season that you expected him to have? Did you expect him to be better like everybody else did after he put up a truly insane season last year? How do you feel, Ben?
I mean, it was I don't think it's a secret. It was a down year. So if you had I want to be careful with this. I'm not like disappointed in the year that Vladdy had, but it was a bit of a letdown, obviously. Coming off leading baseball in homers, and
Yes.
challenging for the Triple Crown in the American League, which is like obviously a different scales, like things Aaron Judge did this year. Now Vladdy didn't hit 60 home runs, but he was also like a Triple Crown contender, with just insane pop. So, which I guess you have to be a contender. So, I was expecting a regression for sure. The ballpark stuff I already knew, but didn't want to say about like the Buffalo and Florida Park might have helped him a little bit, and also just being that young and putting up consecutive seasons like that, unless you're Albert Pujols, it doesn't really happen. So, I would say let down, but I don't think I'm at the level that a lot of people seem to be at. Then again, Twitter's not a great gauge for the people. No offense, Twitter. But I would say like slightly over minor letdown, but not like major letdown. He still had a good year. It's not like he went to like 650 OPS this year. He was still one of the better players out there.
Yeah, his OPS is almost 200 points down from where it was last year. Granted, it was 1,002 last year.
And
16.
Plus offensive year last year, down off. What's the plus difference? I know there is a difference, but what's the OPS plus?
He's lost 36 points. Yeah,
that's
36
I mean,
points.
that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, he still had a great year, though. I mean, this is still the second best year of his career, and there are plenty of teams in the league that would take this season out of their first baseman. So I think, like everybody else, it was a little bit of a letdown, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, and I think he'll put up close to numbers that he did last year at some point again in his career, and like I don't think that's a controversial statement at all. All right, how about Bo?
I'm going to say Bo exceeded my expectations a little bit, and that's going to get the crowd rowdy. But I didn't know if he could keep doing it, and while yes, the defense struggled, he still, if you look at a solid sample of numbers, his defense did improve from last year. I mean, is he absolutely not, but like he's 24 and his defense improved, so that's good. He ended up, per OPS plus, which again like adjusts for up and down years in the sport, which like an OPS or a batting average wouldn't do. He had a better year than last year according to that. He didn't hit as many home runs or drive in as many runs, but he led the American League in hits and doubles. He was
That's
absolutely
crazy. I
yeah,
was going to say that. That is crazy.
yeah.
Like, that is absolutely nuts that he had such a bad year, or everybody was saying, crying about how he was playing so poorly, and then he just shut everybody up, led the league in hits and doubles. What? That's
Yeah.
nuts.
And he's always going to be good at counting stats, which I know people don't like counting stats, especially ones like hits and stuff. But it does actually matter. It means that you're in the games. And like a guy can hit 340, but if he played 50 games for me this year, he's not more valuable than the 280 hitter who played 160. And Bo played 158 or 159 games after playing 159 games last year. I mean, so for me to maintain and perhaps improve a little bit offensively, really take a leadership role at one point in the year, it felt like he was driving the boat to start this September. Um, I'm very happy with the Bo year. I thought he improved on a level that I would want from my 20-year-old middle infielder.
Yeah. I just want to go month by month for a second, just to look at how crazy of a season he had. May, he played really well. He had a 296 average that month, 876 OPS. Then from June to August, really hit a huge lull, struck out a bunch. Um, OPS never went above 743, average never above 273. And then September, October, the guy hit 405. Like, he was just on another planet in
Yeah.
September and October. I mean, he hit 7 home runs most of any month, 27 RBIs most of any month. Like, he was just at 53 hits in September/October compared to the next highest month was 32 in May. Like, the dude was just on another planet. Okay, let's get one more because we are up against it. I'll go to a pitcher now. Alek Manoah is too easy, so I'm not going to go there.
Way exceeded expectations. Blah blah blah.
How about Strip's too easy? How about Gausman?
That's what I was going to say. That's an interesting one. I'm pretty heavily going to come to the defense of Gausman this year. I was expecting about this season from Gausman, to be honest, and we got it. Like, Kevin Gausman went out there, and with the exception of, I believe, one stretch where he had back-to-back bad starts, you pretty much, like, if he had a bad start, the next one was going to be good. And he really didn't blow up much at all, even in his bad starts. The splitter was nasty. Manoah is the ace, but, like, there was, like, they started Barrios opening day. I probably would have went with Gausman in hindsight's incredibly 2020 here. But, you need like a veteran presence on his game, established starting pitcher. And like Ross is a veteran, but he's not an established starting pitcher. Barrios had all that stuff until this year where he was really stinking. And Gausman was just really stable. I mean, ends the year with a 3.35 ERA, major league leader or American League leader, pardon me, in fielding independent pitching. Just had some of the, if you believe this kind of stuff, which I do a decent amount, had one of the unluckier years in baseball, has surrendered without a high hard hit percentage, has surrendered one of the worst BABIPs in the history of the sport, literally. In the history of the sport, he is like top 5 all time for this season. BABIP is batting average on balls in play. So lots of stuff sneaking through. So I was really impressed. I think it shows for me in the fact that they are handing Kevin Gausman the ball game 2 of this playoff series, and I feel very good.
How about him leading the AL in strikeouts to walk? He only walked 28 guys this year, lower than McClanahan, lower than Verlander. Like, that's a really underrated stat. I also think that more people than are willing to admit were a little bit sketched out by that signing. I don't think everybody was sold on Gausman just because he'd only had like one really solid year in his career before this season. That was last year in San Francisco where he had a sub-3. He's had a similar performance to this season, but this was the second best year of his career. So I am also stock up on Gausman. That's all the time we got for that. Ads.
All right, boys and girls, and everyone else. With Bones, I'm Ben Shulman, and we unfortunately have some sad news. It's not all
We
sad.
got some sad news,
but it's a little bit sad. We have to let you know that after the completion of the postseasons, we'll be with you, but after the completion of the postseason, we will be stepping away from Locked On Blues. It's us. It's not you. It's been so much fun doing it, and I'm sure we will draw this out and cry and break our computers a little bit more after the Blue Jays win the World Series or are eliminated. But it's been a lot of fun. It has been great to hop on. I somewhat, I believe, converted Bones into at least keeping an eye on the Blue Jays in the future. I think I at least got you there. So we just wanted to thank you, you and everyone at Locked On too, Jeff Carr and everyone else who's helped us out for what has been a really, really fun season covering the Blue Jays and what should be a fun postseason.
Yeah, I got to thank the Canadians for accepting me. I'm just a little Yankees fan that's trying to talk about the Jays, and everybody, accepted me with open arms. So I appreciate it. I had fun, and thank you for listening. We appreciate that a lot.
Your most shameful "he was a Blue Jay" miss is
Fred McGriff, not even close.
Yeah.
Should have gotten that.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have had that. I really should have. But what's the record I finished with?
Really good. I don't have the live count.
I'm going to say I was 31-10 because I'm the GOAT.
It was somewhere in that range. I think you're 30-10, but you're either 30 or 31-10.
That's
Nolan
fine.
Reimold was your final. My most embarrassing was my whole performance, except for my one-off, one-hint banger.
Benji Molina.
That's all the time we got today. But just want to reiterate, we are still going to be here tomorrow throughout the postseason. I mean, just wanted to get this out of the way because tomorrow we're going to do some we want to be heavy Seattle series coming up. But the scary thing about the wild card round is, by Monday, the Blue Jays could either be, we're on our way to Houston, or they could be, we're on our way to the golf course. So we will just have to wait and see about that. But coming up tomorrow, our massive Mariners preview. Tune into that and tune into the Locked On MLB podcast with Paul Francis Sullivan, Bones' legal godfather. He tells you about Bones' childhood stories, his first bath, his first spaghetti, and the Major League playoffs. That is all coming up. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening.